Oh wow, there was a evacuation at the engineering building. Lab chemical accident. It's interesting. Sorry.
Ready? Welcome in again. No game this week, but there are no bye weeks for the WVSports.com video podcast, Musings from the Mountains. I'm Keenan Cummings, your resident West Virginia senior writer / managing editor / whatever for the site.
And I'm Patrick Kotnik, staff writer for the site. Simple there.
Yeah, keep it simple. I tried to. Well, we're going to take your questions. We asked you earlier this week for some questions. We're going to give our best answers here.
You ready?
Let's go.
All right. First one here. Mostly interested in the perspective of the coaching staff on the O-line performance.
Well, I think it's a two-fold answer. For those that ever watch The Sweet Spot, that should ring home to you. I think that for one area in pass protection, West Virginia's been very good. They're not giving up much sacks. They're giving the quarterback time to make plays. That part of it's been very, very good. The run blocking part has not been very good. In fact, it's been downright awful. Since West Virginia rushed for, I think it was 198 yards against Kansas, they've averaged 2.1 yards per carry. I think they have 184 yards total. They've struggled to get anything going, and I think that's leading to some struggles across the board for this offense. It's leading to, if you look at the numbers, West Virginia's given up a lot more tackles for loss this year, but less sacks, and that is in large part due to the run game. They're not able to get anything going. They're losing yards on runs. It's putting them behind the sticks. So what does that mean for this offensive line? Well, they've tried a lot of things already. They've mixed up different bodies. They've tried different kinds of things to do. So you ask Neil Brown about it. At this point, it is what it is. You got to try to make it work with what you have, but some of these guys that are playing right now physically aren't ready to play. It's as simple as that. They're being thrust into roles that they're not physically ready for, and this is a result.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, they've been a lot better in pass protection, but run game just isn't there. We've talked about before just the offense's inability to really stretch the field and downfield passing. That's one of the reasons why the run game has struggled. Like you said, they load up the box, and then makes it easier for the defense to stop some of those runs. And a lot of it too has to deal with guys like Bryson Mays, a redshirt freshman, where he could very well be the center of the future for the Mountaineers. But as far as the physical maturity, I mean, he's not there yet. I mean, that doesn't mean he's not working hard. I mean, Matt Moore has given a lot of praise to him for what he does outside, off the field with his work ethic and studying stuff. But I mean, as far as the physically maturing, it's just not there yet.
Yeah, it's going to take some time. It's not an easy fix. It's going to take development. It's going to take strength and conditioning. They'll get there. I have no worries about that. They will get there. It's just probably not going to be this year.
And I would look for two as well. I mean, towards the end of the season, we don't know really when, but Brandon Yates and Parker Moore. I mean, those are two true freshmen who are. I mean, the coach is playing a red shirt, but they do want them to play here at some point. So I think that's going to be interesting to see. If they play, when they play, and just how much will they play in some of those games. But coaching staff taking advantage of the red shirt rule there once again. Next question here: how much is the bye week going to help with injuries?
It can't hurt. Is that fair? Yeah,
is that a pun?
It's not going to hurt you. Yeah, I guess that is kind of. But I do think that it's going to help West Virginia at least get some of those guys back that have those minor type injuries. Keith Washington coming back from the groin. Maybe Quandarius Qualls coming back. Some of those guys, it's not going to help you as much with the long-term guys, obviously. Some of those guys are out for the year. But it's what West Virginia needs right now. If there was ever a time for a bye, it's now, just to get kind of refocused, recharged, and kind of healed up a little bit, because this is a young, beat-up football team. And anytime you put young and beat up together when you're talking about the game of football,
the results aren't great.
Yeah, the results are less than optimal.
Now, on the topic of that, will Quandarius Qualls play against Baylor? And a recruiting question here, got two-parter. Why is there not more emphasis on linebacker recruiting?
Well, the first part of that is still up in the air. There's a chance he plays. I think it's going to depend on how he continues to progress over the course of the week.
It's questionable.
And into next week. So right now I consider him questionable. Do I think he plays? Yeah, I think he probably guts it out and plays. I do think he's going to probably split some time with Jared Bartlett, who almost has become the last man up there. They're going to have to put him in to try to spell some snaps, because you're already asking Quandarius Qualls to play a lot more snaps than he needed to. You've tried to move Dylan Tonkery there. You've tried to move Zach Sandwich. A lot of people. It hasn't worked. As for the second, I don't think there's a lack of linebacker recruiting. They have several bandit linebackers in this class. I think you're probably referencing more Mike. And you got to look at it like this, guys. That they'll probably take one. But if you look at the numbers, they have a lot of needs in a lot of areas that they got to fill and not many scholarships to do it. With a hard cap of 25, they're already working behind the sticks. I think they have 22 to give out now after blue shirting some guys. So they're going to have to try to find some other ways, maybe some creative ways. I don't think you're going to see a Will for sure. I think with Josh Chandler and some of the depth you have there, throw that out the window. Could you see a Mike? Maybe. But I think you have to address defensive line. You have to address offensive tackle, and the defensive secondary are your absolute priorities number one.
Now, how many in the recruiting class do they have that can play bandit? I know, is Leno Carr one of them?
He guys? Could. Maybe. Simmons could play it. S.L. McCall could play it. So they have guys. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you're going to get Vandarius Cowan back next year, who's out right now and hurting your depth. Jared Bartlett will be a year older. You have some young players. It's just a lot of them are young. That's kind of your issue right now.
Yeah, and we mentioned this is a situation when it comes to the team this year where Vandarius Cowan, doesn't, it really hurts him being out because, like I said, that took some of the load off of Quandarius. But like you said, now, if Quandarius decides to go out, he's probably going to have to share reps with Jared Bartlett, the true freshman. Next question here: why is tackling in all caps so bad?
I don't think it's been as bad as it's been labeled, honestly. I mean, you look at the numbers. They've missed around 8 a game, 8 or 9. You throw out the Missouri. The Missouri game was a debacle. Mm-hmm. That was a bad tackling game. I think they missed 22 tackles. But you look at the rest of the games, I think it's around 8, 9, 10 a game. That's not that bad. I mean, you look back at last week, Oklahoma's defense is missing more tackles on average than that. So I think there's a difference at times between missed tackles and not being in position. I think you've had more of that, guys blowing assignments and not being where they need to be, than you have flat-out missed tackles. And let's just be honest, guys are going to miss some tackles when you're playing Oklahoma. They force a lot of missed tackles, probably tops in the Big 12. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I would assume it's right at the top, if not the top. A lot of slippery guys and a lot of guys that can make a lot of teams look foolish. Just ask Texas, still trying to tackle CeeDee Lamb.
And that was something that defensive coordinator Vic Koenig said before the Oklahoma game, was that they got to take great angles and you got to be able to wrap up. Now, like you mentioned, they said the unit has had some missed tackles, but I don't think it's been as bad as what everyone has said it's been. Obviously, you don't want to see a whole lot, but that part of it is also that comes with having the young team that they do.
I think it goes back to kind of that situation last week too with Austin Kendall. People remember that one pass he missed to Letty Brown. It's the timing of some of these missed tackles that are it's really playing in people's minds. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the missed tackles this year compared to last year, the number is greatly improved.
Now, next question here on the offensive side of the ball: how many games will Kendall start in the rest of the season?
Man, that's a good question. I think realistically he's going to start at least 2 more, maybe the whole season. I think a lot of it depends on Daggy, where he's at and if he's ready. I do not think this is the Trelo Express or the Trelo Show or whatever was buzzing on social media last week. I think he's more of a complimentary piece at best this year. So if Daggy's ready to play, I think they play him. If Kendall continues to struggle, but I do not think they jeopardize losing his red shirt. At this point, you're in a season where at best, you're hoping for a bowl game. You're out of the Big 12 championship contention. So it's almost better at this point to pocket that year and save it for 2 years down the road.
And we've said over and over again, if this team can make it to a bowl game, that's a major victory for Neal Brown, especially in his first year with the kind of team that he has. Now, I do believe that Austin Kendall, this is his team right now. Neal Brown reaffirmed that during Tuesday's press conference. Whether or not Daggy gets in will depend, like you said, Keenan, on what they decide to do, on how Austin Kendall plays here, throughout the next couple of games. So very interesting to see what will happen there. All right, next question here has to deal with just the team overall. What have you seen in the team's overall demeanor, and give us your odds on WVU making a bowl game?
I think the demeanor's been good. I really do. I think this is a football team that's still fighting. I don't think effort's an issue. One of the most ill-timed, misused phrases, I think, when it comes to football is a team isn't trying, isn't giving effort. I don't see that. I see this as a young team that's trying. They're just simply not as good as the teams they're playing right now. and that happens. You look at some of the things that have happened to this team, and it's hard to overcome that. But I don't think there's any issue there. I think they have good senior leadership. They're trying, but as Neil Brown even said in his press conference earlier this week, trying doesn't always make it good. It looks like bad football at times because it is, but I don't think effort's an issue. I mean, do you?
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I really get the vibe. The team's buying in. Those, everyone on the team is buying in. They're trusting the climb. I mean, that's been, the motto for West Virginia. And like you said, obviously you don't want to have these struggles. You don't want to lose games. But I mean, this is what comes with having the young team that they do. I mean, I don't think effort has been an issue at all. I mean, we've seen in the past where in some of these games when West Virginia gets down, I mean, they get really down once things, get really bad. That hasn't really been the case. I mean, Neil Brown gave credit to the team when it was 49-14 against Oklahoma that, it could have gotten a lot worse, but he gave him credit for, kind of limiting the damage, there near the end of the game. But effort's not an issue, but I mean, this is what comes with having the young and inexperienced team that they do.
Now, will they make a bowl game? 5 games left. I don't see it. I think they win at best 2 of the next 5.
Yeah.
And don't ask me who that would be, because I think a lot of these games are going to be toss-ups. The home games I feel relatively good about, but I think a lot of that's going to depend on, can this offense work out some of its issues, and can this defense get a little bit more healthy down the stretch? If that doesn't happen, I could see them maybe winning 1 game. But it's college football, guys. There's upsets every week. There's surprises every week. They could win 4 of the next 5. But I think going to Baylor is going to be tough. This October slate was just brutal to begin with. Became even more brutal when you look at Baylor as probably the surprise team in college football.
If you would have asked me, during the team's first bye week, I definitely would have said their odds of making a bowl game were pretty good. But I thought they would beat Iowa State. Obviously, it was a tough draw there with Austin Kendall getting hurt, them having to kind of scale back their playbook for Jack Allison. But like you said, Keenan, I mean, I really at this point see 4-8, 5-7 at this point. But with college football, you never know. I mean, they could
still go to a bowl game at 5-7. You still can in today's college football. Just ask Texas.
But you never know. I mean, they could lose these. They could lose these last 5. They can go 5-0. I mean, you just never know with college football. But I mean, realistically, I really see 4-8, 5-7 at this point for West Virginia. Second to the last question here: how likely are we to see Daggy by the Kansas State game? Not necessarily starting, but playing. That's part of the question.
Well, he's dressing and traveling, so that helps. It's obviously not an issue of him getting ready to play, but they're going to evaluate it. Neil said they're going to look at it. They're going to evaluate it. And I think a lot of this is going to depend on Austin Kendall. If he's able to kind of get things worked out to play more consistently and those around him play more consistently, you might not see him. But it wouldn't surprise me if you see him for a game or 2 by the end of the schedule. I don't think it's going to be start 4. Here's the ball, go play 4. I think it's going to be a product of what unfolds with Kendall to get to that point.
I agree with you, Keenan. I mean, I really feel like Austin Kendall is your guy right now, but depending on how he plays, I think it'll depend too on how the team plays around him. Neil Brown made a case, saying that after the Oklahoma game, they need guys, to play better around him. But still, I mean, if he didn't play that great in the second half against Oklahoma, if he continues to struggle over the next, a couple, 2-3 games, then I wouldn't be, all that shocked if we saw someone else behind center, whether that's Daggy, Trey Lowe, Jack Allison, who knows? But I mean, I feel like as far as Daggy goes, with him making the trip, I feel like that, that speaks volumes in some ways. But last question here: which one of you writes under the name Brad Smith?
It was me, Patrick. It was me all along. No, it was not me. I'm not doing that.
It's me, Austin.
Yeah, that was. That's been a weird thing. It keeps popping up on the blue light from now and then. I think by now, guys, you should kind of realize that that's kind of just throwing stuff to a wall to see if it sticks.
I almost bought it with you.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, it could be me, but it's not me. It's not me. But thanks once again for your questions. We appreciate them. If you're watching this for the first time, hit subscribe. I remind you to do that every time. If you're joining us again, 35 episodes we're into now. So excited about this, excited about the growth of it, and look forward to continue to bring you some quality video content as long as you can put up with looking at us. But thank you for tuning in once again. This has been another episode of Musings from the Mountains.